Welcome to Istanbul, a city that finds itself on two lists you rarely see together. One of the oldest cities in the world and one of the biggest. It breathes with history and truly stands at the crossroads of continents, not just geographically, but historically. Let's explore this city at the intersection of Europe, Asia, and centuries of stories. Istanbul is a place where countless roads converge, and sometimes the journey finds you. That's exactly how my wife and I first arrived, during a long layover on our way to Israel back in 2019. By the way, check out that video on my channel, the link is at the corner. 2 days were enough to fall in love with the city, but not nearly enough to explore it all. So we promised ourselves to return. And we did, this time living in Georgia, with Turkey right next door. In this video I will combine both of our trips and show you the full picture. On our first visit, we naturally began with the heart of Istanbul, the old city, where its most iconic sites are concentrated. At the center of it all is Sultanahmet Square. Standing there, you see history unfold in every direction. The Blue Mosque immediately catches your eye, remarkable for its 6 minarets instead of the usual 4. We walked to it via the colorful Tavukhane Street, and behind its rather modest exterior, we found a breathtaking interior. Though mostly rose-colored, the mosque takes its name from the striking blue tiles. With 260 windows letting in daylight, the colors shimmer like a mosaic in motion. Back on Sultanahmet Square, we headed to Hagia Sophia. Built in 537, it was once the largest enclosed space in the world and held that title for nearly a millennium. It was a Byzantine cathedral until 15th century, when ancient frescoes still covered its walls. Then a mosque after the Ottoman conquest, when 4 minarets were added to the structure. The fusion of Christian frescoes and Islamic elements made it feel like 2 timelines overlapping under one majestic dome. Next came a descent into Istanbul's depths, the Basilica Cistern, built between the 3rd and 4th centuries. Capable of holding 18,000 cubic meters of water, it supplied the city for centuries. Nowadays, it's a museum, lit beautifully with art installations and reflections that make you forget you are underground at all. With its forests of 336 marble columns, it feels like a dream sequence in a movie. Winding further through the old city, we passed the elegant Nur Osmaniye Mosque and found ourselves inside the Grand Bazaar. It's exactly what the name suggests, one of the oldest and largest covered markets in the world. A maze of 60+ streets, centuries-old ceilings, shops overflowing with coloring noise. It's not just a place to stop, but a piece of living history, where you can still find anything, including variety of Turkish sweets. Even just walking the streets of old Istanbul can feel like stepping into a painting, Along the way, we found hidden architectural gems that are still captivating thanks to the unique Ottoman architectural style. Others belong to a more modern style called Orientalism, like the Circasi railway station. Its blend of European and Islamic styles is a perfect metaphor for city itself. Eventually, we reached Gülhane Park, a peaceful green escape, and passed through it to the legendary Topkapi Palace. For centuries, this was the seat of the Ottoman sultans and became the setting of many historical events and intrigues. Today it's a sprawling museum of country yards, fountains, pavilions. Inside, you'll find several impressive structures, including the palace itself, the treasury, and the harem. The exteriors are full of details like finely crafted window grilles, tiles, and wood carvings, while the interiors features beautiful stained glass, detailed moldings, skillful paintings, and of course, the rich exhibits of the treasury. Topkapi also has several mosques inside, decorated to rival other mosques in the city. After a long day of walking, we wrapped up the evening with a quiet moment, watching ships float through the Bosphorus as the Galata Tower glowed in the background. We even took a short boat ride to the eastern side of the city to glimpse the Maiden's Tower. Later that night we wandered Istanbul's illuminated streets, enjoyed delicious local food, relaxed with hookah, and caught glimpses of even more landmarks, like the Valens Aqueduct and Yeni Mosque, glowing softly in the dark. There is something magical about how Istanbul lights up at night. When we returned a few years later, spring had arrived. The air was fresh, the sun was kind, and of course, we revisited some of these beautiful places. But we also made time for what we missed before, Balat. Balat is unlike any other neighborhood in Istanbul. Once a refuge for Jews fleeing the Spanish Inquisition and home to African communities as well, it blossomed into one of the city's most vibrant and artistic corners. Today, every house on its narrow streets is painted in a different color. Artists, galleries, cafes. It's the creative soul of Old Istanbul. On our second visit, we explored the northern side of the Golden Horn, districts like Beyoğlu and Beşiktaş.
Приехал в Стамбул, прогулялся немножко, позавтракал, а теперь спорт. Вот такая у нас улица. Идем в горку. Ну ничего, буду кебабы сбрасывать по пути домой.
This time, we stayed in Cihangir, a charming bohemian neighborhood famous for its laid-back vibe and its many cats. Each morning, starting with a breakfast and walk through its narrow, cozy streets, while immersing ourselves in a calm atmosphere. The views opened up to Galataport, a modern port and promenade where cruise ships now dock. One of the most peaceful walks we found in Istanbul was along the Bosphorus embankment nearby, separated from the noisy roads and crowds. It's a great hideaway, not far from the city center. Just the sea breeze, ships, seagulls, and a handful of fishermen watching the water. Afterwards, we crossed the Galata Bridge, another fishing spot connecting the old city with the northern bank of the Golden Horn, and got lost in the maze of the Galata neighborhood. Its side streets reveal all sorts of surprises: small shops and cafes, unusual places like Commander Stairs, and even hidden Catholic churches like the Maria Church, looking like an oasis of peace in the noisy Istanbul, attracting to you with its lush greenery. At its heart stands the Galata Tower, rising like a beacon for tourists and leading them through the narrow streets labyrinth. Built in the 14th century, it was once the tallest building in the city. It served as a watchtower and a prison, to finally become a museum offering a stunning panoramic view of Istanbul. From the top, you may still observe the whole center of the city, including both parts where the tower stands and of course the historic city center and the magnificent Bosphorus. From there, we headed toward İstiklal Avenue, the longest and one of the famous pedestrian streets in Istanbul. It's also one of the busiest places in the city. Crowded with locals and tourists, it pulses with energy. Through the crowd rolls the iconic red tram, a moving memory of a quieter time. Known as the nostalgic tram, it runs through the entire avenue. Electric trams began operating along this route in 1914, serving Beyoğlu until the mid-60s. Thankfully, in 1990, the city renewed this line as a nostalgic tribute, bringing back the charming red trams that now glide once again through the heart of İstiklal. I couldn't help but smile as it brought back childhood memories of old trams in my own hometown. Besides the tram, it's a home to churches like Santa Maria della Paris and the imposing Saint Anthony of Padua, the largest Catholic church in Istanbul. Built in a stunning neo-Gothic style, with its colorful stained glass windows as a required attribute, they remind us how multicultural Istanbul has always been. At the end, we reached Taksim Square. Here stands the Republic Monument and the modern Taksim Mosque, completed in 2021. We wrapped up this part of the city with a visit to Dolmabahçe Palace, the largest in Turkey. As you approach it, the first thing you see is a clock tower, leading you towards the palace gates. Then you enter a lush garden with a beautiful pond and plenty of greenery. The palace itself stands right on the Bosphorus edge, and you get a great view of it from the water. Dolmabahçe was built in the mid-19th century and served as the last sultan's residence until the revolution. Naturally, its interiors also not less rich and luxurious than those of other palaces in Istanbul, or even in Europe. And just like inside, its Baroque and Rococo grandeur blends seamlessly with Ottoman elegance on the outside. One cold windy day, I decided to explore the city in the most comfortable way, from the water. A boat tour along the Bosphorus turned out to be one of the highlights of the trip. From the deck, the historic city's skyline with its mosques and palaces unfolds like a painting. Hagia Sophia, Topkapi, but from a new angle. At one point, you can actually see the entire historic peninsula from the water. You'll also pass by the Galata Tower, together with Galataport. Large cruise ships stop there. And finally, Dolmabahçe Palace I told you about recently. Actually, this boat tour is a great way to see the city from an unusual side. The way sailors see it. And of course, such tourists as we. Besides, if you don't have enough time, it will help you to see more distant but not less interesting places, such as Çırağan Palace, Büyük Mecidiye Mosque, and of course the bridge over Bosphorus, officially known as 15 July Martyrs Bridge. After it, located several cozy neighborhoods with low-rise buildings and a port. Before another bridge, called Fatih Sultan Mehmed Bridge, we turned back, having missed a huge tanker, and continued our way along the Asian bank of Bosphorus, along the Üsküdar district. As you could already mention, this part of the city is surrounded by lush greenery, which makes it feel like a different city entirely. And of course, on this side, there are also several interesting historical buildings, such as Küleli Military High School, the Beylerbeyi Mosque, and the Beylerbeyi Palace, standing right next to the first bridge we've passed already. Finally, we've approached the part of Üsküdar where is the Maiden's Tower located. I'll show it around for you in a minute, but first, we had to dock and go ashore. On another day, I took a public ferry from Kabataş, a ride that felt like a mini cruise. On such a sunny day, it's a great way to diversify your leisure time inexpensively and enjoy a boat ride. Nice views, same as on the boat tour, wind and a hair, other boats, and seagulls around. And finally, you are on the Asian side. Arriving fishermen lined the promenade, despite the catch would only be good to feed cats, of which there are plenty in Istanbul. I settled down right on the shore and savored the view of the Bosphorus, the ships passing by, and the Maiden's Tower, wrapped in legend and solitude. Wandering further inland, I discovered cozy streets lined with a mix of old and modern buildings. Peaceful, livable, and far from the chaos of tourist Istanbul. Finally, I made a way back to Üsküdar metro station. Right next to it located the tomb of one of the Muslim saints, Balaban Baba. Near, I visited Yeni Valide Mosque, small but beautiful. As the day drew to a close, I caught the ferry back, and on the way back enjoyed a boat trip in the rays of the evening sun. On the opposite shore, locals were chilling on the embankment, doing exactly what I'd just been doing on the other side, enjoying the Bosphorus and a city that never really lets you go. Istanbul is a city full of life, layers, and stories. It has its own soul, and if you listen closely, it will tell you a different story each time you visit. For me, it's a place I know I'll return to again and again. But you don't need a 1,000-year history to convince you. Just a curious heart and an open door. Because, as I always say, the world is not in all these books, videos and maps. It's right behind the door.